All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining today for the Parks Foundation and Quality of Life Policy Committee. Thank you, Council Members Coombs and Council Member Murillo as part of the committee. So with that, we'll move forward on the agenda. The approval of minutes. Do we have any changes, additions, council members?
Nothing from me.
Councilmember Murillo?
No changes.
No changes for me, so we'll approve those minutes. Any announcements?
I have a few.
Okay, go ahead.
So we have freeloader days that are starting. Will start. It will be Saturday, April 20th, and anybody interested in free mulch can bring their vehicle, their truck, pickup truck, trailer, and we'll load it up for free mulch. The location is on our website. I don't have that handy. Also, you may have seen the news articles around the Action Track chair. This is a motorized chair that people with specific needs can use to move around a Starkey Ranch and Plains Conservation Center. We have two of those chairs. They require reservations and they are filling. So we're very excited about the new chairs that provide additional mobility for our residents. And also, our next open house at the Southeast Recreation Center is Wednesday, April 24th from 4:30 to 7:30. And this is a free open house for people to attend. And then S'mores on the Shores. I know there was some interest in that at the last meeting. The reservations open Monday, April 8th. There will be 2 sessions, so we doubled the sessions. The sessions are, the event is on the event is on April 26th, May 3rd, and May 10th. And there's 2 sessions each day, 3:30 to 5, and then 5:30 to 7. And the fee is, the rental is $15 per fire pit, and it seats, each fire pit seats 6 people. The location, yeah.
Okay.
South Satellite is where the free mulch is, and that's you enter off of Dawson Street. So South Satellite is where the free mulch is.
Hampton and Dawson. Yeah.
And if you would all like me to just send you a quick email with those updates after the meeting, I'm welcome to do that.
That would be great.
Okay.
I try to write down as quick as possible. So
Thank you.
Thank you for those announcements. Thanks for those updates. And hopefully we'll get those filled up. I'm glad to see that people are utilizing those transportation modes now for people with disabilities there. So great to see that opportunity there. All right, move on to agenda items. We got 4A pros turf conversion 2024. Is that Brian Green?
That's me, Councilmember Medina. Thank you, and other council members. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. We're just wanted to present for information only some information on our turf conversions that we have planned for 2024. As you know, the last few years we've been converting areas of bluegrass turf that are very water thirsty and to other types of grass. So in some areas we convert those to native grass, and in others we convert to where there's actual programming. We're doing a lot of conversions to Bermuda grass, to specifically a Tahoma 31 variety of bluegrass of Bermuda grass that does better in this climate and uses about half the water that bluegrass does, or less than half the water. So next slide, please, Lauren. Is everybody enjoying the Teams experience today? I mean, this is different than WebEx. I like it. So anyway, so I wanted to give you some fast facts about our pros turf conversions. So just to remind everybody that each acre of turf grass we convert to native grass saves over 500,000 gallons of water each year. The conversions to Bermuda grass saved about 390,000 gallons per acre. We're focusing a lot of the effort on native grasses because they are evolved for this climate and adapted to drought. They are what was here pre-settlement and what was sustainable over long periods of evolutionary time. And so they react very well to changing climate conditions. So up to now, over the last few years, we have converted 65 acres of thirsty bluegrass to native grass and Bermuda grass. Our target for 2024 is to convert 18.7 acres to native grass and 3.6 acres to Bermuda grass for a total of 22.3 acres. On the top of this slide, you see the Back to Our Roots. It's all about water conservation. That's part of our branding campaign that we're using, that our marketing group is using to promote and explain what we're doing and where. The picture is kind of a representation of a mixture of bluegrass down in the background of the photo, and in the foreground you see kind of an established native grass stand and what that really looks like. So next slide, please. So the communication plan in 2024 has been much enhanced. Something we learned over the last couple of years is that we need to do a better job of getting this word out to our constituents so they understand when they see what's happening, what's going on and why. So we have this branded campaign, Back to Our Roots. It's all about water conservation. It's branded in that way. We have an interactive website that people can go to and answers a lot of questions for people. And also we're putting that message in the water bill I believe it's in April. So we should be seeing that in the water bill, this next water bill. There'll be yard signs posted, and each of the yard signs have a scannable QR code that if anybody's walking by one of these areas that we're preparing to convert or in the process of converting, that they can scan that QR code and it'll take them to that interactive website with maps and further more explanation. There's also a series of social media posts on multiple platforms that'll be going out to help communicate this effort. Next slide, please. So for 2024, we went through a process to identify the locations. We consulted with our parks staff and Aurora Water, and we also had a few other things that caused us to make choices about which areas were converted. So one of the things you see Olympic Park in parentheses there, we lost a significant source of raw water that was used to water most of Olympic Park. So in the last year, we had to convert to using potable water, which is extremely expensive. And so we pretty much have no choice but to try to convert much of that area to a much lower water use to try to stay within our budget. We had some post-construction disturbance in Delmar Park and also along Airport and I-70. So that's an area that we chose to take advantage of. We're also working to continue evaluating the success of Bermuda grass. We have one of the fields at the soccer skills area that we're going to convert to Bermuda grass and be able to evaluate its performance right adjacent to other fields. So it'll be a good learning experience for us. We have some Aurora Water recommendations and properties that we consistently or had continuously maintained for them over time, and they are looking to really reduce their water footprint on any properties that they own and that we maintain for them. So those are some of the areas that we chose to convert. And there are some remaining projects from 2023 that we're still working on. There's an area along Jewel Wetland along Wheeling that is being converted. And then there's also always the continued care demands. The prior year projects aren't done once you convert them. It takes 2 or 3 years to get them to a point where they're sustainable, either whether they're turf grass conversions to Bermuda grass or native grass stands. It takes multiple years to get a good establishment. So we will continue to be working in those areas from 2022 and 2023 as well. Next slide, please. Welcome, Mayor Kaufman. This is a map of the 2024 locations, and you can see the ward outlines, and there's the red dots scattered through Ward 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There are quite a few in Ward 1 that we worked intensively over the last couple of years. So that's kind of why it's not in the list now. We'll still be working on those 2022 and 2023 sites in Ward 1. But Ward 2 has Airport and I-70, Soccer Skills Park, Ward 3, Delmar Park, Ward 4, Jewel Wetland area, and the Westerly Creek South area. Ward 5, Olympic Park, where a large effort is underway. And then there's some areas along in Town's Reach that we're converting where there were bluegrass turf along roadways and things like that that don't match what the current water policy is. So next slide, please. So here's a map on the left of Delmar Park. Councilmember Medina, you're very familiar with this area. So the ACAA is in the tennis courts and the aquatic center. So the area in red, a lot of it was disturbed during construction of a water project, the water repairs in there. And so that area needed to be restored in one way or another. And so we took this as an opportunity to convert these non-programmable areas where you can't have a soccer field or that type of thing to native grass. So this is a 1.82 acre native grass conversion. Next slide, please. So now we get to Olympic Park, the largest of our native conversions. And because of that loss of that non-potable water source in 2023, much of the area that in pink on the map on the left is area that's not playable, really. It's got landscaping, it's got trees and very steep slopes. So this is an area that we've chosen to convert to native grass. Just this conversion will save 4.4 million gallons per year. And it's an 8.8 acre conversion to native grass. Next slide. And this is the donut hole you saw in the last map. This is the big flat area that is playable, that it's about the size of 2 soccer fields and often is used for soccer. It's the largest of our Bermuda grass conversions this year. And again, it's tied to that loss of non-potable water. So this conversion of these 2 soccer field areas, it's about 2.66 acres to Bermuda grass, will save a little over 1 million gallons of water per year into the future. So these are conversions that keep paying us back over time. So it's very important. Next slide. These are the side landscaped areas along Airport, north and south of I-70. And they were heavily damaged by bridge construction in that area. And again, this is a target of opportunity where the turf grass was damaged to a point where it was either going to have to be replaced with the same thirsty bluegrass in an area that our current resolution doesn't allow us to do that. So we're converting this to native grass, which also matches a lot of the area around it. It's not going to be, it's going to be compatible with the other area around it. It's a little under half an acre. Next slide. This is the area along Wheeling Way that is adjacent to Jewel Wetland. This project was begun in 2023. It's a narrow strip between the curb and the walkway, and we need to comply with the use of turf ordinance passed in 2022. Here, Section 5E states that turf shall not be installed in medians or curbside landscapes. This is an area we began last year, and we need to follow through and finish it up. Next slide. This is soccer skills area, and the pink is one of the fields. There's 4 fields side by side there. They're kind of mini soccer fields where a lot of play and practice happens. This is an area that was in need of new sod because that field just got overused in the last year. And gave us an opportunity to convert it to Bermuda grass. This site will allow us that side-by-side comparison with the bluegrass fields to the north to see how well it performs. This will be an important data collection and evaluation opportunity for us. It's just under an acre. Next slide. This is one of the Aurora water priority areas. So this is a channelized drainage way, and then beside it is a trail. concrete trail, and in between those thin narrow gaps is currently turf grass with kind of a older, less efficient, complicated irrigation system. And we want to make this look, I realize that the title of the slide is wrong on this one, but this is Westerly Creek South. Will provide a significant water savings to the water department of 2.45 million gallons of water per year. Next slide. And I just wanted to highlight again some of the areas that were converted in 2023 and how that they will require some continued care. What you're looking at in the picture is the kind of the front, what used to be a lawn area in front of Beck Recreation Center. It's steep slopes. It's really just where people walk up and approach the Beck Rec Center. So that area was converted last year, and it will continue to need some weeding treatments and possibly some overseeding in areas where it didn't establish, but overall it looks really good. So Arkansas Pond, Beck Rec Center, Buckley, we have more work to do on those medians that are between Iliff, that go along Buckley from Iliff to Dartmouth. There's an area at Central Facilities that was converted, looks really like it's coming in really well. Cottonwood Park, La Parquita Park, Lowry along 11th Avenue. There was a radio tower on Mexico that just really the turf had no real purpose there, so it was converted to native grass. There's an area at South Satellite, Triangle Park, and at Aurora Sports Park, we've done a lot of conversion of the parking islands, and then there was an area of turf that was around the pump house for the irrigation system that really wasn't used for any play value. So those areas were all converted last year to native grass. So next slide, please. So in summary, the conversion of existing irrigated bluegrass will net a total of 10.7 million gallons of water per year. And that's just the conversions that we're doing in 2024 going forward. The savings are realized over time. We will need time in a couple of years to use a little bit of irrigation to continue to get those grasses established, but then we'll be backing that way down to less than 10% of what their original use was. The program will continue based on available funding. We are working with Aurora Water. We put in a grant request for a federal grant request for that was about water conservation, and we proposed a bunch of more conversions for 2025 in that grant. We're seeking those dollars with the match, part of the match coming from Aurora Water. So that is something to look forward to. So our total of conversions from when we started this work to 2024 is about 87 acres, which has conserved 130 acre feet of water. That's the equivalent of 10 football fields side by side, 13 feet deep of water. It's also the equivalent of over 400 households worth of water saved each year. And so that savings continues. I think I have one more slide, or that may be it.
That's the last one.
Okay, so I would entertain any questions.
Thank you, Brian, for that presentation. Councilmember Coombs, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Medina. Thank you, Brian, for the presentation. So with looking at Olympic Park, a couple questions. One is, in the areas that are being converted to native grass, like I understand they're not playable with any kind of sports, but people still use them for like sledding and other types of activities. Is the native grass conversion still compatible with those types of activities that people might do on those areas?
Yeah, we have other areas as well that have always been native area in that same area, kind of the other side of on the other side of Chambers, part of the spillway in Crest Ridge Park. We see a lot of that sledding type activity, and the native grass will bounce back. A lot of times that snow cover, protects it in place. And the main point with native grasses is that what you see above ground is only 10% of the plant. most of what you have in a native grass stand is below ground. So you have these big, healthy, robust root systems that anchor that soil and sustain that plant through multiple years. They're perennial grasses, where bluegrass maybe has, roots 6 inches deep. Some of the native grasses that we use will have up to 6 feet deep roots. So they're really resilient to, any kind of activity. I mean, they evolved with buffalo grazing and, that kind of thing. So they're robust plants that could take the sledding and things. They won't be quite as useful, like for someone like just throwing a ball around or a frisbee or something like that. But it'd be more similar to, the open space areas.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I'm sure there will be lots of questions as there's major conversion happening. So I want to make sure we understand that. And then the other question I have is, you talked about the reason for this is a loss of a non-potable water source. There are other fields there, the baseball fields, that aren't being converted to Bermuda grass. Is Bermuda grass not compatible with baseball, or is it just more of a phased approach you guys are taking?
So the Olympic softball complex is utilized very early in the spring, all the way until late into the fall. Bermuda grass has a shorter use window. It actively grows a shorter growing season. So there are places where bluegrass is necessary for that high traffic, high impact use. We're evaluating Bermuda grass in other locations like the soccer skills area, and we will be able to see how the soccer area kind of fares with the Bermuda grass in Olympic Park. But I don't think there's just going to be places in our system where we will always need some bluegrass turf for these high impact athletic competition level fields. So they may never get converted, but currently we're just really trying to reduce our water budget there.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, on the medians on Buckley, I think we all heard a lot about that. So you said that it's not really completed at this point. So what is the additional work that needs to be done, and what's going to be done to keep things kind of looking as well as they can in the process, so that we're not hearing from folks that it's
Yeah.
a fire hazard or,
Yeah,
the other types of things that we were hearing over last summer.
sure. There's multiple answers to that question. One of them is, I think, we learned that we have to be more attentive, and not try to just let things be and get there. So I think we're going to be much more attentive and monitor that and kind of try to keep the appearance into a, more of a neat type category, but it is going to change. I mean, we are gonna have to educate people and have them understand that we just can't have, football fields in the middle of our arterial roadways. It just can't look like that. Even if we convert it, when the conversion is complete, it is still going to look a little less uniform. It's going to look, and so a big part of that is education, is this branding, this campaign, and this website that explains that. And I think, we want to get that feedback, or we want to have the opportunity to educate those folks too. So if they're having questions, we want to engage with them. Please send them our way, because I think, we've done this for a long time in a lot of places. We've educated a lot of people on the sustainability and of these type of landscapes over the bluegrass, and as a city, we have to move that way based on our water. So I think we're ready to do that. We have, and the other question you asked was what work needs to still be done. So there's reseeding that needs to be done because they didn't come in uniform. There's weed control, with this probably herbicide later in the year. There are herbicide applications that will try to knock down those weeds. And I think it's important that we be honest with people that it's going to take 2 to 3 growing seasons to get it to point that we wanted. It's not a quick fix. Brooke has her hand up, so I must have gone awry somewhere.
No, you captured all of that. I was going to add that what I noticed, and I imagine others do as well, is with the taller grasses, they seem to capture the trash a little bit more than the Kentucky bluegrass, where trash will be rolling through maybe. So the taller grasses tend to capture the trash, and so we'll have to be more attentive to trash removal and evaluate if we have to increase the amount of effort that we put on those medians once they're converted. So I think that's kind of looking forward for us as well.
Thank
Brian, you
both.
did a great job. Thank you.
Any other questions, Councilmember Coombs?
Nope, that's it for me. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Murillo?
Just echoing Member Coombs's comment about Olympic Park. Brian, I may or may not have been participating in the snow sledding on the other side of the park.
May or
back
may
in the
not.
day.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was a very important answer and question. So I'm glad to hear that. Otherwise, it sounds like y'all are being strategic and resource efficient in rolling this out. And I totally hear you that it's going to just take some time for all of this to be implemented. So thank you for your good work, you and the team. No questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Kaufman, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you. Probably all of us may have been to Soccer City at some point in time. And that is over on on East Colfax. So I guess that's Ward 2. And where they have multiple fields that are, I don't know what you call it, synthetic or artificial. And I just wanted to see what, obviously they're a nonprofit, not a direct part of the city. But I want to see is that where was that consideration, and what are the pluses and minuses of the artificial grass?
Sure. Artificials, we have quite a few synthetic fields, and we are always looking at, future needs for that. But so our sports park on East Colfax. So it's I think that's what are you talking about that, Mayor Kaufman?
No, not our sports park. I
Okay.
think before that, a little bit to the west of that, on the same side of the street, is Soccer City. And they're a nonprofit that have
Okay.
multiple sites, and so a lot, they have night games and stuff like that. And but they're all their fields. I think they might have like 4 fields or something like that.
Yeah.
They're all artificial.
And we currently have a setup similar to that at Sports Park. So our north fields are 4 synthetic fields side by side.
Okay.
And they'd have lights, and we program those. Our recreation department programs those heavily. They're always in use. So one good thing is they can be heavily programmed. So it's a very big plus for a synthetic field. You can program those. It's not requirement. It's not dependent upon growing season. They are very expensive, and then you have to replace them over time. So our sports park fields are, I think, are they about 10 years old? Nicole knows more of this than I do, maybe from the dates and times. But so they are beneficial. In the ARPA projects that are going forward this year, we're adding 2 synthetic fields, one to Rocky Ridge Park and the other one to Lowry. So we are adding synthetic fields as well as part of our capital improvement programs and the ARPA funded projects, because of the heavy need we see for soccer and other uses. And those fields in the ARPA project are not going to be necessarily programmed. They're going to be where people can go practice, where people can be drop in and play. The sports park specific synthetic fields are heavily programmed, and so there's always something scheduled there. I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, can you give me some idea of the cost comparison?
Sure.
There's no question that synthetic, I think the initial investment would probably be pretty high compared to
It's huge.
planning.
Nicole, do you have those estimates for the ARPA projects? I think that's probably the best example.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull those up so I give you accurate
Okay.
numbers. But if I can pull those up while we maybe move on to the next presentation, I'd be happy to share those. I just want to make sure they're accurate, but you're correct. The initial capital construction cost is significant for us. Of course, the methods in which they're maintained are of course quite different. So it's a bit of a balance of trying to provide, what the public is looking for, whether they're programmed or not programmed, and looking holistically at the initial capital outlay versus the operations and maintenance over time. But let me dig into some of those numbers that we have currently for the ARPA projects, and I can give you a sense of scale there.
So Tom Tully, our business services manager, just messaged me that the replacement cost at Sports Park for the 4 fields, if we were to replace the carpet, like you replace the carpet in your house, is about $2.5 million.
Wow, a lot.
So that is a cost that when we have a synthetic field, we kind of have to plan into the future that it doesn't last forever. It doesn't continue to grow. It doesn't, you can't just fertilize it and keep it new. It wears out like carpet in your house and you got to replace it at some point. So there's that future planning for a capital replacement that has to be considered as well. Nicole?
Yeah, some of my staff are on the call were able to pull those numbers very quickly, so I appreciate that. Rocky Ridge Park, the current estimate for the turf, the artificial turf, is 1.13 million, and at Lowry we're about 1.6 million.
And those are for basically one tournament size soccer field is the template that they use to design those is one field. So it's about, I guess we could say it's about $1.5 million per soccer field to install.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just have one question, Brian.
Yes, sir.
Is most people's grass that are current homeowners since the beginning, is that mostly bluegrass, or is it Bermuda, or what type, or is it a variety?
It's usually what we see in Colorado is bluegrass or a mix of bluegrass, ryegrass, and fescue. So a lot of times when you buy sod, that's supposed to be like, kind of a, if you're buying sod, you can buy strictly bluegrass, which is usually more expensive, or you can buy sod that is a mix of at least 2 or 3 different species. So ryegrass, fescue, and bluegrass. And typically that's done because you don't really know what your soil exactly is a lot of times. So a sod grower will put in a blend something will do well in a front yard. And so you may have a shadier area or a sunnier area. So maybe the bluegrass does better in the sunnier area and the fescue does better with the partial shade. So there's usually a lot of mix. And if you go into a landscape supply place and look to buy grass seed, you're usually buying a grass and seed mix, but almost always it has a good portion of Kentucky bluegrass, because that's what everybody expects to see in their lawn, is that color and that length of growing season. But it's very resource intensive. That's that way for your lawn in your front yard. You feel like you have to aerate it, you have to fertilize it, you have to spray the weeds, you have to water it a lot to make it look that way. So and carefully care for it.
Yeah, the reason why I asked is I was just curious about that, is that if you think, I mean, I'm just looking at it for, we did some things around mitigating, planting in new developments, but I've also looked at, current, people like myself who I have a fairly large yard, and I was just wondering, how do I, get so I can convert to something like that in my backyard, which is much larger, obviously, and what's the feasibility of that?
It's a huge opportunity. There's so much bluegrass in our private citizens' yards, front yards, backyards, whatever. It's a huge opportunity to make those more water wise with either bluegrass conversions or lower water use types. So you can get Bermuda grass seed. You can also get it's a rhizome forming grass. So a lot of times it is installed as sprigs, is what it's called. So it's pieces of that rhizome that they look like a root, and you spread those. So you prepare the soil, you spread those, you you roll those in and you water them, and they take over, and they're very aggressive, and they spread from each of those fragments of that rhizome. So there's a way to do it, and I think there's a great opportunity for it. We have some experts on our staff that have a lot of experience with Bermuda grass. So we're lucky that we have park supervisors that have a lot of experience in turf grass and have degrees in turf grass management, and have helped us with working through some of that. We have people on our staff that are so excited about it, they've converted their front yards to Bermuda grass and different things. So I think there's a great opportunity there as a community.
Yeah, maybe I'll connect with you and see if what we can do with mine, because I would just like to, start it off by, practice what you preach,
Practice
right?
what you preach. Yeah,
It's like,
absolutely.
if we get other people to do it, you got to do it yourself. Because I have a fairly large backyard, about 3,000 square feet.
Oh,
So
my
I
goodness.
can tell you it's pretty expensive. So that's why, asking is that how
Yeah.
can people that are already established, can we convert that? Because I think if we can get,
Sure.
pretty good swath of the city overall to do that, then, that again saves millions and millions of dollars of water, gallons of water over time. So.
Yeah, hopefully that's what comes out of this whole program, is people see after, at some point in time that they appreciate this Back to Our Roots campaign and the all about water conservation, and how we are able to create these other landscapes that are more sustainable. They kind of sustain themselves, and they are less, will free up a lot of water availability
Great.
and cost.
Thank you. Brooke?
Yeah, I
Some
know
hand
that
up.
Aurora Water has resources. I will reach
Thank
out to Marshall and see if we can get that information and send it to you all.
Thank you much. Thank you again, Brian, for the presentation. Thank you for the
Welcome.
questions, everyone. And we'll move forward. Thank you. All right, next up on the agenda is 4B, the dog park study update. Is it Nicole doing the presentation?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicole Ankeny, and I'm the manager of planning, design, and construction. And actually, Addison Petty is going to be doing the presentation for us this morning. He is one of our new planners. So Addison, would you like to get started, please?
Sure. Thanks, Nick, and thanks, Councilmember Medina. Well, as Nick said, my name's Addison, and I'm a new planner in PRO, so I'm really grateful to be able to meet members of the committee this morning. I've been with the city for about 2 months, and I can see that it's a really exciting time for Aurora. PROS is excited to update you on our dog park study this morning. So I'll share some of our considerations for design and development, and how that momentum ties into the great energy surrounding the Our Parks, Our Places master plan. Next slide, please. Aurora has 3 dog parks. Those are Bicentennial and Singletree, which both measure under an acre each, and Grandview, which is almost 4 acres. The dog park study snaps a clear picture of those assets today and sparks our vision of future places for people and pets. PROS is documenting related community issues and opportunities, and crafting recommendations within the department to advance these goals. Next is the project timeline to frame our discussion today. Coming into the team, I'd like to thank Ryan French, our project delivery supervisor in PROS, and our prior colleague, Michelle Teller, for laying such a successful foundation so far. They started to hear a lot of interest in dog parks during the Our Parks, Our Places master plan process in 2022, which is happily now pending council approval next month. That feedback created a great opportunity to assess existing conditions for dog parks and to host more focused community engagement as we improve and expand the PRO service network. The Sasaki Associates helped us facilitate that initial process in spring 2023, and then delivered their preliminary report and recommendations to PROs in the fall. So here we are today in spring 2024, and our big picture goals are to finalize dog park design and development standards, to publish them in our updated criteria manual, and to kick off the PROS Department strategic plan for fiscal year 2025. I have the next slide. These are a few of the highlights from the Sasaki report. There was clear and consistent feedback from the community. Issues like maintenance and access to running water top their listed needs. Participants were also interested in the size of dog parks, including separate areas for large and small pets, and amenities for people like seating, shade, parking, lighting, and restrooms. Sasaki conducted an inventory of those conditions for existing dog parks, and several of their field findings really matched or mirrored those community concerns. PROS also asked Sasaki to assess bike and pedestrian connections, spatial design, and signage, for example, in their report. So it's really great to have that information and data moving forward now. Next slide. Sasaki's support informed PROS considerations for future dog park design. Land use buffers, dog park features, and equitable park access are a few of the focal points for our process so far. Next slide. Land use buffers are an important element to identify park constraints and opportunities. PROS is considering how to mitigate any potentially negative impacts of dog parks like polluting stormwater, buffering noise and pet odors, and managing the high volume of foot and vehicular traffic that dog parks attract. But just as importantly, we're also considering how to co-locate the positive features of dog parks near other compatible land uses. So perhaps there are different setback standards or design criteria based on proximity to single family versus multifamily residential, retail versus industrial use, or other park recreation and open space facilities. Next, we'll continue with design for dog amenities. Our considerations here respond to community input. We're thinking through things like including those large and small dog park areas, whether we want to promote the use of manufactured equipment or natural play features, depending on dog park location, size, or type. And we're also thinking through the best way to manage stormwater with various surface types, for example, to ensure that we're being good stewards of community resources and the environment. Next slide. Amenities for people are just as important. We're reviewing the obvious features like seating and shade, and we're open to creative ideas about co-located park amenities, perhaps like the outdoor exercise equipment that you see pictured here. We're also taking a special look at landscaping. Traditional landscaping requirements won't hold up in dog park environments. One way to mitigate that could be to move traditional planting requirements to the exterior fencing perimeter where greenery can be protected from pets and play, but still serve as a functional aesthetic barrier for the neighborhood. Part of that determination is reviewing standards for irrigation, seed mixes, and hardscapes to identify best management practices for those materials and design. Next slide. The value that drew me to PROS is a serious commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thinking through the accessibility features of parks is very important to our team for that reason. We're especially proud to have a master plan that supports that work. One strategy is to look beyond minimum ADA requirements and to promote a shift toward universal design in our planning practice and policy, which includes PRO's updated criteria manual. You might recognize the gate picture here as a fairly common one for dog parks. It technically meets ADA criteria, but it's easy to see how it can still present a real challenge for a person using a wheelchair and their service dog, for example. The dog park study grants us a perfectly timed opportunity to solicit new construction details for better design and to get creative about inclusive signage and wayfinding as part of a broader accessibility effort across the department. On a related note, Pros had a great time last week at the grand opening of Fulton Park. It's a playground for kids, not for dogs, but I was really impressed with all of the accessible play features. There were inclusive swings, a ground level trampoline, all these really cool music installations that I definitely had a good time on. Um, and even though a lot of that equipment was specifically designed for wheelchairs, it was very clearly used and enjoyed by people of all ages and mobilities. So it's just a great reminder that inclusive planning really does produce good outcomes for everyone, not just those who we might previously have thought to be in a minority. But that's the beauty of universal design as the professional standard that we're aiming for in pros. Next, we'll take a look at some considerations that pros is factoring for development. We're continuing that theme of equitable access and connectivity, taking a look at construction and maintenance costs, and we're imagining how different dog park types and sizes can best serve Aurora residents and visitors alike in our local and regional parks network. Next slide. Starting with equitable connectivity, multimodal transportation planning is a prevalent theme in Aurora today. It's clearly outlined in the Aurora Places Comprehensive Plan. It's integrated as a goal for our parks, our places in pros. And there's a collaborative transportation master plan underway for the city at large. The map that you see here shows current access to dog parks by car in Aurora, but we're equally interested in how the bike and pedestrian network enhances access to park, trails, and transit, including RTD, light rail, or bus. Besides the environmental appeal, we also know that parking can be a huge barrier to neighborhood acceptance of dog parks, particularly when foot and vehicular traffic flows into residential areas. We really want to achieve smart planning overall in pros, and we're confident that providing these strong, sustainable connections will help meet the evolving needs of the community, provide safe and welcoming spaces for everyone, and improve the quality of our investment in the master plan visions that we're building from. Next slide. Of course, all big visions have practical challenges. Research shows that dog parks can be 3 to 5 times the cost of traditional park construction and maintenance when you factor things like daily trash pickup, chemical treatments, reseeding, and high impact foot or vehicle traffic. Rather than allowing that to limit our imaginations, PROS is leaning in to explore and expand our resources. We're thinking about creative public-private partnerships, volunteer programs, single or annual use dog park fees, field and amenity sponsorships, park development fees, and ownership agreements. Our goal again with that is to increase dog park service areas over time by being great stewards for community land, financial capital, and the people power that we need to care for our parks. Next slide. Weighing these different design and development criteria has provided a solid foundation to express a local vision for parks and to define our roles for building on that future collectively. Thinking about the size and types of parks, we're excited to get creative about ideas for infill, transit-oriented development, or other tight spaces where dog amenities might serve as a fun and convenient connection point. We also care about balancing priorities for people and pets, including what percentage of park dedication requirements can or should be fulfilled by needed dog parks while still prioritizing parks for people. PROS is committed to finding that right balance, the right fit on the ground and in our updated criteria manual as we prepare for strategic planning in the community. Next slide. The next steps for PROS are to formally approve the Sasaki Dog Park study, to update the PROS dedication and development criteria manual with the types of information that we've previewed here today, and to put that work into action with a strategic plan for fiscal year 2025. thanks for sharing your time so we could provide that update this morning. What questions can we answer going forward for you today?
Thank you, Addison, for that presentation. Councilmember Coombs, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Medina, and thank you, Addison, for that presentation. Very exciting to kind of see the ideas that we have moving forward for additional dog parks, which I know many people are excited about. I do know that there has been some conversation about making any changes to already ADA compliant facilities to make them more accessible, and some objections to using funds in that manner from some members of council, well, from the majority of council. So I think in planning new dog parks, that's likely to not be a hurdle. But how would pros approach making changes to aspects of the dog park planning if there is that type of objection from council that they want to value engineer a project to exclude accessibility upgrades where ADA compliance is already met?
I think Councilman, this is
Yeah.
Brooke Bell. I think I'll give it a try on this question. I think we're going to have to evaluate those circumstances when they occur. And I know that's not probably the response you're looking for. I also would expect from our staff to put our best concept forward that serves the community, all the community members, and then it will be up to council to, and we will share what we believe the costs are to do that, and then it will be up to council to approve it or not. But we will do we will put forward what we deem is best for all the citizens.
And Brooke, if I can add to that, Laura Perry,
Mhm.
Deputy City Manager, we are undertaking the update of our ADA transition plan. And a requirement of that is an assessment and evaluation of our infrastructure. So that includes both facilities, public right-of-way, as well as parks. And we will be undertaking that assessment as part of the update of the transition plan. And that's a legal requirement that we do. And that will result in recommendations that we will build into a multi-year plan to address some of the ADA deficiencies, if they are indeed there, over the course of time through our capital planning.
Can I ask a follow-up question to Laura?
Yes.
And so in undertaking that, I know it's not about dog parks, but in undertaking that study, are facilities built prior to 2010 being looked at for meeting the 2010 kind of Olmsted-based ADA updated requirements rather than the pre-2010 ADA requirements for facilities that were built before that time?
We're not quite there yet, but yes, whatever the requirement is that we need to, in terms of the time frame, I do know that there's a safe harbor provision as well for much older facilities. But we will make sure that it is scoped comprehensively so that we are evaluating, essentially what we're required to.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Councilmember Coombs?
No, that's it. But thank you so much for just sharing again that presentation and mentioning Fulton Park. I really wanted to make it out and was not able to, but glad to hear that it was, enjoyable for everybody that attended, and look forward to checking it out when I have the opportunity. So thank you again.
Awesome.
Nicole, you had your hand up earlier. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, if I may add to the ADA conversation, one of the things that we'll be doing on behalf of pros is I'll be working very closely with our new ADA coordinator. And as part of the update to the city's ADA transition plan, we'll also be very heavily looking at the GIS and data analysis so that we can have that information at our fingertips as we do our capital construction planning and design work. So we will be working very closely to make sure that that data is not just a report that's in a PDF or sits on the shelf, that is put together in a way that is very useful for staff, for city council, and for the community.
Thank you. Councilmember Murillo?
Thanks, Councilmember Medina. I'm not sure. I'm looking at the project timeline. Thank you for the update there. As I guess I'm not clear on exactly what all these different timelines really mean. I mean, I see the words. So I guess I'll just ask it this way. If folks have ideas or suggestions, residents want to offer that to the department or want to advocate for a certain area for, make their case XYZ, where does that go in this project timeline? When is that part of the discussion?
So if I may, Councilmember Murillo, again, this is Nicole Ankeny, Manager of Planning, Design, and Construction for Pros. They can send that information via email to me anytime. As we go through our Pros Manual, which is the Dedication and Development Criteria Manual update, we will build in some timelines with working with the community. Those design guidelines are really kind of equivalent to the Uniform Development Ordinance or the Roadway Manual. So it's kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of what the construction and the design details require. And that will also inform any implications on private development that comes into the city. And then once we have those standards developed, that will also inform our capital planning as we look to the future. But I would say, residents are welcome to reach out at any time and send in information requests, whether that's through Acela or via email to me directly.
Gotcha. But you wouldn't be able to do anything about it until the last phase in 2025, or I guess once the design and dedication criteria are approved through, I guess that would be through council. Is that right?
I believe our manual is currently approved at the director level, though there will be a lot of public engagement with council and with the development community. So we do have some funding for dog parks in this year's capital improvement budget. So as we develop these standards, the first projects that we're likely to tackle are within the existing dog parks that we have, because those will be some of the first things that we can put those new standards into practice, right? So then the rest of it's going to come along as we do our capital budget planning process each year. So it's a bit of managing the standards and looking towards the future for planning, also balancing workload and making sure that everything's being thoroughly vetted through our capital budget process. And it looks like there's a lot of hands up. So Brooke, do you want to start?
Yes, thank you, Brooke Bell, Director of Parks, Recreation, Open Space. Nicole and her team are also in the process of updating a few master plans, and I believe one of the master plans does have a dog park in it. So that's another avenue. It might be through the master planning process, the current master planning process that's going on in some parks. There may be an opportunity based on engagement from the public that may result in a dog park sooner. I can't make that promise. As Nicole said, we're balancing a lot of different capital needs. And then also we're seeing interest in dog parks and new development as well. And so that may be another area where we see it. And then all parks in new development are to be open and accessible to all our residents across the city. I know they would have to drive farther for the northern developments, but those parks that are being built up in the newer areas of the city, they are open to the public. It's just a bit of a farther drive, and I know that there's dog parks planned up there as well. It's a process, and I don't know, Ryan, do you want to take another? Do you want to add to that?
Yes, please. So, thank you, everyone. My name is Ryan French. I'm a project delivery supervisor and was a project manager for the Our Parks, Our Places master plan, as well as working with Sasaki to develop this dog park study. And to answer your question, Councilmember Murillo, I want to make sure that we touch on all of the public engagement that has happened to date, because it was very extensive through the master planning process, as well as some specific engagement events regarding dog parks following up with the master plan project. So we did collect a lot of information from the community, and we're holding that data and that information. Some of it is location based, some of it does inform those design decisions and updates that we're proposing, and that will be part of the manual update as well. So we did capture those voices during that planning process. So it did not happen in a vacuum. And then moving forward to Brooks, to sort of one of Brooks' points is we will continue public engagement as we develop park properties and identify the need or the potential desire for parks that are being renovated.
Gotcha. Thanks. I think, I'm always going to hold attention when I hear that, and we know that the newer development, there's different standards, which is amazing. I think that's great. That's not what's in Ward 1, just period, right? So I guess I'm interested in understanding how, like, there is kind of equity in the delivery, if because I get that when there's strategic opportunities, I respect that y'all are trying to be very mindful of the resources and opportunities, but there are more opportunities in areas that are having to adhere to new design standards, that we are, in a really positive way, making some changes around. Yeah, so I guess, from my constituents, I'm worried that, like, this process, it sounds great, but I guess I'm worried that it will still prioritize, other opportunities, because they're more like maybe financially opportunistic, as opposed to kind of what is more equitable. We know there's a lack of park space and green space in Ward 1 already, let alone dog park space. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. The other thing that just is a challenge in general, right? It's like just the space. So, working with the school districts, maybe the schools that have shut down, or I don't know if there's any issues with active schools and park spaces, but I mean, that's the only place that I think we're going to find just like open park space. So, I know there's the Sable and Paris elementary schools that are kind of most recently closed, and hopefully we'll have conversations with other staff here soon around what that could look like, because I think that's an opportunity that, like, just I don't know where we're going to get that again, frankly. So just trying to think of opportunities and how we kind of reverse engineer this coming to fruition in areas that are older, like Ward 1. Yeah,
I hear you. We can check in with the schools and see where they're at. I've heard different things for the different schools. Also, we can also look at Lowry Park. That's the only other area I can think of, Nicole, that's bigger in Ward 1. We're always looking for land, and it's just hard for us to find it out there. So yeah.
Well, and if I may add, Brooke, one of the things that we'll also be looking at, Councilmember Murillo, is as we make these standards, one of the rules of thumb is that the minimum size is 1 acre. There may be wards or neighborhoods where 1 acre just isn't feasible. So that's where we want to make sure as we work through these dog park classifications and typologies, that we really recognize that the development across the city has varied greatly over time. So that's when we get into those next steps. There may be areas, you know, such as greenfield development, where those minimum standards make sense, and there may be other opportunities where we can have partnerships with others in those areas where it's more difficult to come by land of high acreage.
Any other questions, Councilmember Murillo?
Don't think so. Thank you.
Addison, I know you had your hand up. Did you want to say anything else?
Oh, just briefly, Councilmember Murillo, I just wanted to acknowledge that I really hear and appreciate the spirit of your questions, and I do think that PROS is really committed to holding space open for those important questions and ideas going forward beyond these conversations. So, thank you.
Mayor Kaufman, do you have any questions?
Oh, just a quick comment, and that was Councilmember Murillo and I were at the Fulton Park kind of grand opening, and it is such an amazing park. It was so innovative, and its proximity to the school, I think is incredible, and with those what's that what replaces tennis, what's that game?
Pickleball.
Pickleball, with pickleball courts and everything. But what did I mean, I was just so impressed with that. I'm quite frankly not seeing a part, you know, that's really I think really pushing the envelope in a park with a little trampoline and everything, and that it was inclusive, and what I just really want to commend the department for putting that together.
Thank you. We'll pass on your regards, and we very much
thanks, yeah.
appreciate that you were there, and Councilmember Murillo as well. And yeah, it's a beautiful park.
Very
Thank you.
exciting. Yeah.
All right.
Council-
Yep, go ahead.
Real quick, sorry, Mayor, maybe this could be part of our conversations around the Lori property. I know we were talking more about housing, but you know, they're complementary uses potentially as well. So just want to
Right.
put that bug in your ear.
If I could just say that, but there's a park area that is already designated. Am I correct in that? Which I really didn't. I knew that there was a park area, but I didn't know that there was already plans for that. And I know that Councilmember Murillo and I are going to be working on the redevelopment of that area when I can't remember how many, like 80, I can't remember how many acres. It's a pretty large parcel that will be that is deed restricted right now, and that deed restriction is coming up this summer. And so it's owned by the community college system, Colorado Community College System. But we're going to be having discussions with Chancellor for the Colorado Community College System about their plans, and as well as with the Colorado, as well as with CCA, Mordecai Brownlee. And so look forward to those discussions. But good to hear about a park being well, there is an existing park there right now, but that it's going to be, there's more development to come in terms of
The
parks.
pickleball folks would disagree that it's in tip-top shape. That was one of their first areas. We won't open that door, but just wanted to put that in your ear as we have those conversations.
Good.
Thanks, team.
Thank you all for your questions. Yeah, my questions were kind of similar to the other council members and people, so I won't belabor that. So yeah, thank you again for your presentations, and we'll go from there. But thank you again for everything you do. And again, I'm sad that I couldn't be there at Fulton. I was with a family emergency with one of my granddaughters in the hospital, so
Oh no.
couldn't make that. So but yeah, I know you guys do a great job having worked for you guys, so I certainly applaud you. So thanks again. And with that, I think we're down to any miscellaneous matters for consideration. Seeing none. Topics for next month's meeting?
We have a few items to bring forward. We have the official grant letter from the USDA. It's the forestry grant to be planting trees in the north part of Aurora. So we'll be bringing that forward. We'll also be looking at a contract with Arapahoe County for Dub Valley programming, and then the Colorado Freedom Memorial Concessionaires Agreement. We have a number of IGAs that we're working on. I'm not sure if they'll be ready for the next meeting, but they'll be following here, probably in May, an IGA with Aurora Public Schools, Cherry Creek School District. We have a number of joint uses with those entities, where they use Utah Pool for swim lessons. We also use their gyms for basketball and sports, and all of those contracts require some updates. So you'll be seeing those in the near future.
Great. Any other questions, concerns? Council members, mayor? If not, we will adjourn. So thank you again. Appreciate it. Have a
Everyone.
great
Thank
day.
you.